Joining me right now is Texas Congressman, House Financial Services Committee member Lance Gooden. Congressman, it's good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good to see you.
What do you want to see out of this trade talk conversation these next 2 days?
You know, I want to see what I've been seeing from President Trump, and that is continued toughness toward China. The president understands that we've got to be tough on China because China, they just haven't respected us, and they don't. They want these tariffs lifted, but they also don't want to do things like deal with their the patent infringement, the cheating that they've been a part of over the years. They don't want that to stop. So they're willing to give, but I don't know that they're willing to give enough for President Trump to be happy with this, and I love what he's doing. I hope he continues it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's the first president that's actually changed the conversation on China. And, you know, we've been talking about, well, I've been saying for a long time that American CEOs have been so interested in getting their products in front of 1.4 billion people, they forgot to protect the products, and they forgot the themes that they deem as so important in America, due process, you know, human rights, etc. So what do you say to some of these companies this morning that seem to be rolling over and getting bullied from the Chinese People's Liberation Army?
Yeah, I would say remember the past, because it's going to repeat itself. I mean, the Chinese, we don't have any idea how these companies run. They don't have an SEC. They don't have financials that are available to the U.S. We don't have any idea how much state influence or state funds are going into these competitors that U.S. companies are competing with. They haven't been playing fair, and if we're just going to roll over because we don't like the recent tariffs and we think that we can't take it anymore, then we're just going to go back to the way things were. And what was the point of all of this? So I think we've got to continue to be tough and say that enough is enough.
Let me move on to Facebook's digital currency plan. You have called on Zuckerberg to testify. Since the original Facebook Libra hearing back in July, Zuckerberg will testify before the House Financial Services Committee on October 23rd to answer your questions about the company's proposed Libra cryptocurrency. PayPal has already withdrawn the support there. MasterCard and Visa reportedly questioning their involvement. What do you want to see? I know you've been pushing for Zuckerberg to testify. What do you want to ask him?
You know, I want to ask him how much involvement he has with this plan moving forward. I want to ask what their plans really are for the future. How do they intend to ensure that the U.S. dollar remains strong? Chairwoman Waters, Maxine Waters, and Donald Trump actually seem to have agreed on the concept of these cryptocurrencies, that there's too much unknown, that the potential to destroy the U.S. dollar is very strong, and there were a lot of questions that their spokesman didn't seem to have answers for. And so Maxine Waters, myself, and a few other members of the committee, we went to Switzerland back in August. We talked with the members of the commission that were expected to really play a part in this. They didn't have great answers, and so we're hoping that Facebook can really put some concerns to rest, bipartisan concerns that are important for the American people.
Any thoughts on the other issues around social media? I mean, Congressman Devin Nunes really sued Twitter in the Virginia court back in March, and he seems to have gotten a victory this week. He calls them a content creator. You've got Tulsi Gabbard suing Google for censoring conservative conversation, is really what Devin Nunes is saying, but Tulsi Gabbard's not saying much different, saying that there's censorship going on. What do you want to see in terms of this? Yeah, go ahead.
This is one of the few issues that Democrats and Republicans are both in unison on. Democrats don't trust Facebook for various reasons. Republicans don't trust Facebook because they censor our communication across the country when it comes to campaigns and elections. So it's really fascinating that this is one of the few issues that both Democrats and Republicans seem to have an issue with. And you know, Facebook is run by a bunch of liberals.
I mean, do you believe that they should be immune from getting sued, that they are just platforms?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I think they should absolutely be held responsible. Yeah. And then the other thing with all these issues with their social media, if we can't run a social media platform, why would we want to go out and run a gigantic cryptocurrency platform that we want the whole world to be a part of?
That's a good point.
The fact that PayPal, MasterCard, Visa, that these big prestigious players are pulling out, I think is an indication that this is heading in the wrong direction for Facebook. Perhaps Mr. Zuckerberg will have some enlightening information in a few weeks, and I'm I'm grateful to him for appearing. I think that speaks volumes.
All right, so you've got an agreement on that, but there's not a lot of agreement elsewhere. This impeachment inquiry is creating uncertainty for many of President Trump's proposals, like USMCA. So what do you think? Is anything going to get done? Will Nancy Pelosi bring USMCA to the floor, and will it pass?
You know, I think every day is an unpredictable, unprepared for day, it seems, with the Democrats. The USMCA agreement is the one issue that I have found that my colleagues across the aisle are actually in agreement for. They're frustrated that their speaker has not brought it up and said, let's get this out. But, you know, Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to give the president a win on anything unless her liberal wing of the caucus approves it, and they haven't approved it yet. So with respect to China, all these agreements, what a shame that our president can't go into these agreements from a standpoint of force because he's dealing with impeachment. When other world leaders see that our president is having to deal with impeachment, and also world leaders don't, in other countries, they don't know what impeachment proceedings really entail. They don't realize that this whole thing's a sham and it's going to die in the Senate whenever that happens. So it's a real shame that our president is having to deal with this when he's having these high-level discussions with China, when he's in New York at the UN. But back to your original question, what are we going to get done between now and Christmas? With the Democrats running the show, I'm not real confident that anything happens.
That's too bad. Congressman, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Congressman Lance Gooden joining us. Coming up.